Hi everyone, this is Cindy from Vintage to New, and I am going to be taking my channel in a different direction. You can tell that I haven't uploaded a sewing video in quite a while, and I've just been feeling the need to make a change. And so the change that I'm going toward is junk journals. There's still sewing involved, a lot of crafting. One of the things that always appealed to me about sewing was making treasures that would be passed down. So grandmas or moms would be making cute little dresses that would be handed down to the next generation. And so this, in a way, is just a continuation of that. These journals are made to be really special and to be keepers of memories. So this journal I'm going to show you, we'll go through it, and then for the next few videos, I'll be going back through each little thing and showing you how to do it too. And so, without delay, let's get started right away. So, this journal is a fairy journal. I absolutely love and have always loved the little fairies from the 1920s, the 1930s, that era of a fairy. This is an Agnes Richardson print here on the front, which is just adorable. And it says, "There really are fairies, you know. Here's the one that we found in the midst of the flowers, and it is lucky to send one's love to a friend by a funny wee fairy like ours." So, just adorable. So they're made from books that you get that you don't want anymore, Goodwill books, garage sale books, whatever, and you cut out the insides. This actually is nothing but the covers, and I even added a new spine to this one to make it bigger. And I'll show you all those things on how to do it. But here we have the inside. This is a digi print that I did. I added Once Upon a Time on it. It has the little fairy playing music for the little bunnies and the birds. And this is called a end paper right here. So when you're doing the cover on your book, they always have the papers right here, and this is mine. Every book, you know, has to have the little "this book belongs to." So this one says, "This book belongs to Cindy." And I have to tell you, I pulled out my old typewriter to type that, and I went through 6 cards to get down to "this book belongs to." So I think I don't type very well on a typewriter anymore. Okay. So here's another digi-print I did. "Sweet thoughts fly swifter than the drifting snow." And so here is a winter fairy. There's little wings feeding the birds. This journal is done using antiquing. Everything on it has that old vintage look. They don't always all have to be that way. That's the wonderful thing about this creativity, is you get to do whatever your style is. There's lots of pages like here where you could add photographs or do journaling or whatever you want to put into your journal. And the things I'm going to teach you is how to do these pockets. This is a double card. So you could write on the inside, the back, whatever. This is music that you find. My Goodwill store where I go has music every time I go. And so I just pick up the old sheet music. This one was exceptionally great for this journal because it says "Sweet Dreams" and "The Dream Fancy," because little fairies come to you in your dreams. This one's playing music. I also have another little card that can pull out here, and I'll show you how to do that. Just slides right back in. More fairies, and I also added here "Once upon a time, a long time ago, in a land far away." How many times have we heard that? And this little fairy here talking with the frog. She is just so adorable. So it's a wonderful opportunity. If you're a sewer, which I know many of you are, you have so many leftovers of little bits and pieces and snips of fabric and lace, and this is a place where you can use them. And if you notice, all of these cards and stuff are sewn around the edges, so there's still some sewing. This piece of sheet music was, the first song was Amaryllis, then Au revoir, and then Budding Flowers, Carnival of Venice, Cherry Blossoms, Come Back to Erin. Anyway, it just goes on and on. It was just perfect. This one is a botanical of oak tree from the 1700s. It's also a digiprint of mine. I said the oak tree is my home. And if you notice, there's this little elf, little fairy, and he's got his palette and he's painting all the leaves of the oak tree for fall to make it beautiful. So I don't think there's any problem with believing in fairies, because it's just the wonder of imagination. And so that's how I look at it. And this was printed in St. Nicholas magazine in November 1910. So the golden age of fairies, the 10s, 20s, 30s. Then if you've been doing junk journaling for a while, especially botanical journals or gardening journals, there's a lady named Edith Holden, and you can buy her books. Her books are not out of copyright yet. The reason is she did her illustrations way back in the early 1900s, like 1906. And then all of her illustrations sat in her notebooks for years and years and were not published until 1977. So they're relatively new. And this, when you do a journal like this, you have to lay it in this way to get it into the binding. So when we get to the back of the signature, your bundles of pages are called signatures. When we get back here a little farther, you'll see the last half of the Edith Holden page. And here's some more little fairy prints. I just think they are just so cute and so precious. This is the Purple Pansy Waltz. Now this one, it is a little notebook. So we untie it and it says, I go to claim my love. It's the piece of music. And inside here is a little memories notebook, and you could write whatever you would like in here and on these pages, and then you could tie it up and it just goes right back into your book. It doesn't come out. This one is a really pretty butterfly. This is the Cinderella, a fairy tale waltz. And this one is in the month of the roses, and there's a pocket up here. This is just a collage page of, this is old dictionary pages, and this is one of my digiprints. And then to reinforce the one word of caution, when you go to buy your books that you're going to use for ripping the pages out of to use in your journals, dictionaries are great because they have a lot of paper in them and you can find them just about anywhere. And I found this gigantic dictionary. We actually have, I think, the same one that was from my husband's mother. It was literally like this wide. And I thought, oh, that paper will last me forever. And it was all yellowed. You can see how yellow it is right here. Well, it was rotten and I didn't realize it. And so using it in my book has caused a lot of trouble. But I could have used washi tape, but I didn't have any washi tape that I really liked with this design. So I used just thin masking tape, and then I used extra glue to help hold it down. I learned that from Gail Augustinelli. I will link you to her YouTube channel below because she has been someone that I have learned so much from. It's Gail Augustinelli and Wendy's journal. Adventures, I think. Wendy's Journals Adventures. I'll link both of them below so you can see other people that do this too. But anyway, and then I antiqued it and I think it looks wonderful. So this is another digiprint of mine, a cute little fairy with the big mushrooms in the background. Of course, if you're thinking about fairies, you're daydreaming. So here's a little pocket that has a daydreamer and another little card here on the side. So I'll be showing you how I can make all of these little pockets and how you make these tags. So, and here is some more Edith Holden. So here's the back of one page. This is called the center of the signature. So you'll notice they're hand sewn in. You sew your signatures in, and here is Edith in the center. Now, to do this, Edith Holden's pages are bigger than most journals, and I don't know, it was probably a little sacrilegious, but I had to cut the page. I had to cut the bottom of the page off to make it fit for the center. I hope she doesn't mind. But I think her work is so beautiful, her watercolors, and I wanted it to be the center, and that's the only way I could make it work. And you can see I had to fold in the edges because they're too long this way too. So instead of cutting it off, I just fold it in. It's okay. This is another digiprint of mine. Now, this one here, I like to think, this is a brother and sister sitting down in the garden reading fairy books. And they like to imagine themselves in the fairy garden. And so here's some little sprites, little fairies, and this is the brother and sister walking through the fairy garden. So that's that one. And if you notice, this is on an envelope. So you open the envelope up, and here there's a sheet of paper where you could do some journaling, put it back in, all right? And then on the other side, this is where the lip of the envelope is here. I put a pocket over that, and look at these curious girls peeking into this window, and I think there's music playing. And so what are they trying to look at? And if we look inside, you'll find these little fairies getting dressed and ready for some special occasion. They're picking out new dresses and new shoes. So that's the commotion that's going on inside that they're curious about. I have two of these. This is a green one, and I have a different color one in the back. Oh, here's the other side of my mushroom digiprint here with the little fairy, little cornflower fairy, playing ping pong over a spider's web on a mushroom. How cute. And then this little fairy, she is just taking it easy and letting the birds take care of her as she lounges around in her nest. This is also from St. Nicholas Magazine in 1923. So that is just awesome. And of course there's laughter, and everywhere fairies go, there's music. And then this one, I put a little piece of music at the top of this card, and I used my sewing machine to sew in some lines to write. So there's that. And then on this one, I'm not sure if she's a fairy or an angel, but she's just beautiful. Little sweetness, and it says, each little bird upon its wings a loving message from me brings. And so here's a place that you could write your love notes or messages about people you love or whatever you would want to write. And back here is a little fairy cottage. Back in there, another digiprint page. All right, so here is another Agnes Richardson. She is one of my favorite illustrators. Isn't that little girl just precious? And then here's the two little fairies peeking out at her. Oh, yeah. I have a a 5-year-old granddaughter, and so it just makes me think of her. And then I just did a little collage garden page that you could write on the back in this pocket. The back half of the Purple Pansy Waltz. A few more little fairies. This is the same print from the front cover. Another print. And this one was really interesting. This was from the St. Nicholas magazine again. Let me bring it a little closer. And I looked at it, and it's from 1918. And I looked, and this guy here is wearing a uniform. To me, it looks like a World War I uniform. He's got little wings, and this one, she has a red cross on her hat, so she's a nurse, and she's bandaging his hands. And St. Nicholas was a children's magazine, and so I don't know the story or what this is, but I just thought it was really interesting for 1918 children's book to have two little fairies on the front and talking about the war. So I thought that was interesting. Here's the last part of that Edith Holden page. Another digiprint page, another botanical page. Okay, so this one. This is one of my favorite pages. I found this little fairy girl. She's dressed as a fairy. And of course, my little granddaughter, she loves to dress up into fun little princess costumes mostly. But she just looked at me and it was telling me, she was saying, tell me a story. Like she just really wants to hear a fairy story. And then I found this one. It doesn't have a fairy, but it says, come play with me. So I think you want to be told a story and then you want to come play with me. So I made it so when this card is in its holder, the come play with me shows through the cut here. All right, another beautiful fairy. Now I must admit, this was a French fairy from the early 1900s. And she was not fully clad. It was not the PG version, so I photoshopped a shirt onto her. I just thought she was beautiful. Those French, it was actually a postcard. So anyway, this is another digiprint, a little fairy. And if you know anything about fairies, you've heard about fairy rings. They're mushroom circles that grow. So this is the beginning of the fairy ring, and when you get to the back here, here's the last half of the fairy ring. So my two little fairies there, and this is a digital print. This music was in Dreamland. My second set of fairies playing ping pong. And their little card says play. We all need to play. The Purple Pansy Waltz. This is my little fairy in the forest. He's holding some blackberries. Another pocket with more little fairies that are just precious. And, well, I'll put them in later. The beginnings of another Edith Holden page. So there's one full page in each signature, and then the center is hers. Pretending. And this was another gem from Cupid's Garden. It was June. So that was that music. This is some Art Nouveau flowers. The era of my favorite fairies is the Art Nouveau, maybe Art Deco period. And so I just thought that was really appropriate. Here's another song from Cupid's Garden, I Go to Claim My Love. And so this little girl is sleeping, falling asleep. The fairies are playing music for her to go to sleep. She's going off to slumber so she can go to claim her love. Here's another little fairy with the little fairy house in the background. digiprint. My Edith Holden page. So beautiful. Okay, my battery ran out, and so I figured out where I was and what I was saying, and we'll finish up. So we just finished our Edith Holden, and I was beginning to tell you that Edith Holden books, there's several different ones, but this is the one where these pages come out of. It's called The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. All right, but you want to get the one that says it's a facsimile reproduction of the diary for the year 1906. So what they do is it shows the writing this way, and I don't know if this is her writing or just a typeset that looks like writing. But if you don't get the facsimile reproduction, they use just regular typeset writing, and this is just precious. So you want that one, just so you know. But we'll go over that as we learn to do these books. So here's my next little fairy in the little fairy garden house right here. This little one is, it says, the fairies say you love me, dear, as much as I love you. I care not if the bunny's here. 'Tis sweet to think it's true. Isn't that precious? And this is called a belly band here. We'll learn how to make some of those. Sweet Friends, Dreams, Hummingbird. The last half of my Art Nouveau paper. Look at this one. This little guy. He's fishing. Isn't it precious? This is also a St. Nicholas magazine. I don't know what year this one is. All right. Okay, so we turn the page, and this is another envelope. So it flips open like so. Paper. More of my Art Nouveau paper, printed a little bit transparent right there. And then you can just fold it up. And there's another tag here. And this one here. My two little fairies, they're going off to discover something new. And here is the back half of my Edith Holden page. One of my favorite illustrations of hers are these toadstools, and I just thought they were perfect for a fairy book. This is The Fruit of the Hawthorn, so nice winter. It's the last little packet of fairies. Here's my Agnes Richardson in another. I think this is one of her oldest prints. Here's my Forest Fairy. The back half of my music. This belly band, when I put it in, I did the antiquing, but I left the center highlighted here, and it says it's from Cupid's Garden still. And here she is playing a tune, the little birds following her. And this envelope opens like this. And there's a piece of paper in here where you could write. Place it back in the envelope, close it up, put it back in your book. Now this little one, she is just so precious. Once you get a good look at her. Okay, this one is the one that says, Telling Fairies the Time. The time, dear fairies, if you would know, it's really quite late, so to bed I must go. So she's off to slumber. There's a little butterfly card here. A Sweet Dreams tablet here where you could add some journaling. The back half of my Purple Pansy Waltz. My last little Rose Fairy. And then at the very end I put, and they lived happily ever after, because every fairy story, everybody lives happily ever after. And then the end. And then I will show you how to make these closures to help hold your book closed. So if you're up for an adventure and would like to learn how to get started in doing junk journaling, I hope you'll stick with me, and we can learn and have a lot of fun together and use up some of our fabric scraps that we all have, and to make something that will be cherished memories. And so until next time, this was Cindy from Vintage to New. Bye-bye.